I think it's good. That's what I was expected. Because me, I was toward liberals myself. I like their goals. I like the way Justin Trudeau works, and that was the reason I was happy about the result of election. I think the most important thing is about the housing that we recently see a big jump on the prices, and it's hard for people to get an accommodation with the reasonable price that we used to have. I think that should be the first focus, and also COVID.
I didn't know what to expect. I did feel that the Liberal Party has been on the right track with the messaging about COVID and about the pandemic, finishing the fourth wave of the pandemic, getting us through it, and then using this experience as a template to initiate changes for the environment.
Essentially, I'm not very surprised with the turnout of the election. I think Canadians in general have been through a very tough time with the pandemic. Some people felt that maybe it was too early. I kind of think there's never a right time to call an election. But it just affirms that the Canadians didn't want too much change because they have had so much turmoil in their life, losing loved ones and losing jobs, etc. So I'm actually not surprised with the results and what it means for the Canadians in the future. I think with every election comes novelty, and there's going to be changes, and there are parties that came out, on top with more seats, and there are other parties who had less seats. But I think together, Canadians have proven that they were able to come together, and I think with this democracy, we'll be able to come together again for another 2-3 years or whenever or however long this election will last, because it's not a majority government. So
I wouldn't say I'm not surprised about the current election. I mean, I did have some hope for a different government, but considering the kind of in terms of like economics of the country and in terms of the kind of society we live in, it only makes sense that a majority of non-Indigenous people would sort of vote for their needs and their basic rights instead of voting for the basic rights of First Nations or other minorities in the country. Or what I hope to be focused on, are the basic rights of Indigenous people, clean drinking water, having our rights acknowledged, and top of that, they just passed Bill C-15 in the summer, so we don't know what the implementation of the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People, we don't know what that's going to look like and what they're trying to implement in our day-to-day policy. And personally, I'm not really for the current, whatever it ends with, if it's a liberal government, I'm not really for that. Mainly because we've been dealing with that for some time, and as someone like me who studies political science, I have a giant perspective on that, right? It's kind of like you see what kind of government is in power, what they can do to help minorities, and for someone like me, I wouldn't say I'm, they all just do the same thing. They all want to govern the country a certain way, but depending on the certain parties, they're not always going to favor to minorities as much as you want them to.